freedom, man. That's what it's all about. You've got to groove on freedom, like the good book says.
Welcome. You are listening to What on Earth is Happening. This show will discuss the topics of human consciousness, mind control, natural law, the occult, and all issues that affect the freedom of the people of Earth. What on Earth is Happening will endeavor to shine light upon the darkness of our world and to offer empowering solutions to the problems we face as humanity approaches its critical moment of choice. And now, here is your host, Mark Passio.
Welcome one and all. You're listening to What on Earth is Happening here on the Oracle Broadcasting Radio Network. I'm your host, Mark Passio. My website, whatonearthishappening.com. The network's website is oraclebroadcasting.com. Today is Sunday, September 9th, 2012. This show is live every Sunday from 5 to 7 p.m. East Coast time, 4 to 6 p.m. Central. We have a great show lined up for you here today. Today on What on Earth is Happening, our special guest will be Laura Eisenhower, and she will be coming on the show to discuss sacred feminine energy, how we can come into contact with it, to nurture it within ourselves, and to influence others to also step within its empowering and protective embrace, to transform and to heal the imbalances of our world. So Laura is coming up in just a moment, right here on this edition of What on Earth is Happening. I have a couple of brief event announcements I'm going to give in abbreviated form so we can get to Laura as soon as possible. Everyone will notice some of the changes made to the website this week. The audio for the What on Earth is Happening website is now all in HTML5 format, and it now requires no plugins like Flash to allow it to play. This will allow it to play on all mobile devices like iPhones, iPads, Android smartphones, Android tablets, etc. I'll also be switching the video on the site over to this new format within the next week or so. Also, listeners will notice a new HTML-based chat room on the radio show page. This chat room will now also work on all mobile devices. So that's the reasoning that I made a couple of these changes, and I think it worked out really well. And if anyone has any difficulties or issues with it, just send me an email and I'll take a look. The Free Your Mind 2 conference, of course, coming up here in the city of Philadelphia on April 25th, 26th, and 27th of 2013. You can find more information at www.freeyourmindconference.com. We already have 19 confirmed speakers for this great event coming up next year. And I'm asking listeners who happen to be in the New York City area on September 11th, that's on this Tuesday, September 11th, the 11th year anniversary of the tragic events of 9/11, to please print the flyers that I have listed with this show and the past couple of shows, and print them and bring them to New York for distribution. I unfortunately will not be able to make it to New York City on this anniversary of September 11th, so I'm asking for some help. If anyone can go above and beyond the call of duty and just print some flyers for the Free Your Mind 2 conference, I would really appreciate them being distributed in New York City on September 11th. The first fundraiser for the Free Your Mind 2 conference will be taking place this Saturday, September 15th, at 8 o'clock p.m. at Liberty's Pub on the second floor. Liberty's is at 705 North 2nd Street in Philadelphia. There will be a $15 donation, suggested donation at the door. And this fundraiser will feature a presentation that I will be making entitled The Matrix Trilogy Decoded. I'm going to be breaking down the allegory of the Matrix Trilogy. All proceeds will go toward offsetting costs associated with bringing in out-of-town speakers for the Free Your Mind 2 conference in April. Conference tickets will also be available at the fundraiser this Saturday. For more information, of course, visit the conference website, freeyourmindconference.com. On September 22nd, there will be the nationwide End the Fed rally. In Philadelphia, this will be taking place at 6th and Arch Streets in front of the Federal Reserve Branch Bank building. And I will be speaking at this event Saturday, September 22nd, 2012. I'll be speaking in front of the Federal Reserve Bank at 6th and Arch Streets for the End the Fed Philly rally. For more information on this nationwide event, visit endthefed2012.com. I will also be speaking at this year's MUFON PA East Coast Conference, the Mutual UFO Network of Pennsylvania, September 28th, 29th, and 30th at the Sheraton Bucks County Hotel, 400 Oxford Valley Road, Langhorne, Pennsylvania. For more information on this conference, go to mufonpa.com. I will be speaking on Sunday, September 30th at that event. So for the next 2 weeks on this show, we will be taking it will be an all call-in show for the next 2 weeks. So next week and the week after that, all call-in show on the topic of the non-support of dominators, which is a solution that we have been covering over the past many weeks. So that's coming up on What on Earth is Happening. So let's get to our special guest for today. Laura Eisenhower is a cosmic mythologist, global alchemist, and clairvoyant healer, and is the great-granddaughter of Dwight David Eisenhower. She is on a profound mission to complete his legacy and reveal our true origins with extraordinary intuitive gifts which are deeply connected with the Magdalene and Gaia Sophia energies of love and wisdom. These two forces connect many dots that are coming into our awareness now more than ever as our solar system aligns with the galactic plane in 2012. While residing and traveling independently in over 20 cities in the U.S. and abroad, Laura developed a broad knowledge base that weaves together the esoteric and alchemical aspects of nature with our ancient roots, the present world, and our future potential. Laura lectures and does workshops on issues critical to global transformation and seeks to empower the individual so that harmony can be restored to our world. With great passion and courage, Laura is helping to return sacred union, divine wisdom, and the many faces of the goddess that have been buried and forgotten for thousands of years. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to What on Earth is Happening, Laura Eisenhower. Laura, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Really looking forward to this interview ever since the first Free Your Mind conference at which you spoke. And your lecture very much impressed me, and I've been looking forward to speaking to you ever since. And you're going to be coming back to Free Your Mind 2 for another round here in Philadelphia, and we're really looking forward to that coming up in April of 2013.
Yeah, that's going to be excellent. I'm really excited.
Definitely. So, Laura, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, the work that you do, and the type of information that you communicate?
Well, my work really started at a young age. I was pretty aware of what my work was going to be. Just, being in this family and, really reflecting energetically within myself of, what's really happening on the planet. I could tell there was a massive imbalance. I could also feel that this world is running on a program that just felt, artificial and not really, based on the depths of who we are. And so I was always probing deep into the mystery of, our origins and really, what the warning of the military-industrial complex means. And it just put a deep focus in to the missing links, energetically in terms of ourselves, what's within us that we need to call to our attention to, awaken and empower so that, we're not locked in these programs, these deceptions, these distorted, I guess you could say distorted versions of the masculine and feminine and how they relate to one another, and how it's affecting our planet, and why there's so much pollution, why there's extinctions, why there are these technologies that seem to be influencing nature and this and that. So of course all that came to me later, but my whole life has really been like this mission and adventure, sometimes very dark and difficult, at other times very illuminating and eye-opening. I was also involved in a recruitment in 2006 to go to Mars. So it really put a lot of dots together about, the divine feminine and the targeting of, the goddess energy, and just how much that role, or that part of us has been, sort of kicked out of the way.
Absolutely.
And so my work is just really to, bring attention back to that, and to really look at, what we need to understand to, shift in the most positive way on the ascension timeline.
Definitely. Now, would it be fair to say that you were kind of always personally awake to these dark forces that are at work in our lives, or did you gradually become aware of them over time? Can you tell us a little bit about your personal process of awakening? What were you always aware of these forces, or did it happen in a stepwise progression?
I guess you could say it happened in gradual steps. The first thing was knowing that, the divine feminine energies have been buried. And I remember saying to my mom, I feel like I've been buried alive and I have to dig myself out. And I was like, 8 years old, and she was like, geez, that's pretty heavy. And and then, of course, understanding who this man was, who was such a big focal point in our family, Eisenhower, and, what the wars were about, what, these deeper layers of his presidency, and him as a general in the Second World War, what was really going on under the surface, because I had heard so many rumors growing up about extraterrestrials and treaties. And so I discovered how much all of this is connected. How our ancient history, the suppression of the divine feminine, and these treaties with the government that have pretty much taken place before the Second World War have been to lead us onto a completely different timeline, heading towards New World Order, where, Mother Earth, Gaia, is absolutely under, technological control. And that force within us is, definitely targeted, as we see in the media and in television and just the programming that we're all raised in. And so this was all gradual, just sort of opening my eyes to why my intuition was so set on understanding this, or being in tune with it. And so it's just been a gradual unfolding. I wrote a book called The Grail of Venus, Chronicles from Hell and the Quest to Unite Heaven and Earth, throughout my journey, just about, this deep underworld journey I had gone on to, I guess you could say, break free of whatever controls were upon me. And it really came to a head in 2006 when I was recruited to go to Mars, because it's like everything failed in my life and there was almost nothing left but to go to Mars. And I was convinced that it was to protect me and to get me off planet. And then I later discovered that those that were recruiting were behind the technologies that are creating these disasters. So it really helped me understand that a lot that we see on the world stage is a false flag, is in a sense theater, in order to absolutely fool us so that we stay very distracted and out of touch with, the force within us that can create global transformation and help set us free from, the control agendas of our shadow government, which is basically the government. And of course, religion and, just all the insults, that Mother Earth has gone through and that we're going through, on a mind control level, and how it's concentrated in certain projects, that a lot of people have, exposed, whistleblowers. And it's just so much more monstrous than we can even grasp. So, growing up in this family just allowed me to see just how this all connects. And I think people are sometimes shocked, like, how can you tie in the divine feminine and all this mythology and archetypal stuff with extraterrestrials and government stuff? But, what I'm here to reveal is that they absolutely are connected. And so, yeah, I would say starting from the age of 6 till now, it's been a gradual, I wouldn't say so much awakening, but mission to recover myself from these forces and to help humanity see where they're being led astray and how we're all targeted, really.
Absolutely. And let's shift focus and start to talk about this transformative potential that you kind of alluded to. This is what we are calling the sacred feminine energy, or the divine feminine. Would it be fair to say that you view this as the energy of the heart, as true care.
Yeah, it's definitely, some people get caught up in, gender viewpoints, what a woman should be like, what a man should be like. And a lot of it just really isn't genuine to, sacred union, finding that harmony within ourselves where it's not a power struggle, where women are, taking over and men are, trying to suppress, but that we can find within ourselves, that dance, that relationship that, utilizes our differences, but in a very harmonious way, brings it into oneness, and that androgyny that, puts us in that higher chakra connection to, our higher self, and how that, can come into our beings to really resolve the imbalance that we see in the larger world. So it has to do with the mystical feminine, the nurturing, the love, the tenderness, the protection, the unconditional love, and just how that's the force of the cosmos and of Mother Earth and Gaia, and that we're absolutely connected to this. It's our blueprint, and they've tried real hard to disguise it in these exploited roles where the feminine's just sort of an object and the man is just the dominator, and it plays out in our personal lives as it's playing out on the world stage. And it's just important that we just aren't sharing conspiracies, but we look at ourselves to see, where are we feeding them? Where are we buying into it? And where have we become agents, in a sense,
Yes.
by adopting these programmings in the way we treat one another?
Exactly. Absolutely. Now, this sacred feminine expression, people should be made aware that we are absolutely talking about something that is extant within all of us. We're not talking about physical gender of male and female. We're talking about the masculine and feminine forces or energies that exist within us all, regardless of physical gender. It exists within males and within females. So can you speak to that distinguishment between the physical gender and what I've kind of termed mental and spiritual gender?
Yes. Well, on a gender level, I mean, all of us, have masculine and feminine energies in us. And when we suppress one or the other, we're not really living in balance. Same goes with our left and right brain if they're not functioning together, or just our viewpoints on spirituality and science, or, even, good and evil. It's like these forces need to come together so that they can learn something from each other. And, it's an alchemical process, the alchemical marriage. And so, men who are in touch with their feminine side, it's not that they're becoming like a woman, but they're in touch with the part of themselves that can connect to their own mother, their own nurturing quality, their own ability to listen and be, available to really understand, women. And men sometimes just run this very dominating control energy. It can be very egotistical. And then women can adopt that too and sort of, get out of touch with their divine feminine because they're becoming more like a man. So, it's just important that we understand both, and that we don't adopt those roles just solitary on their own, because the divine masculine understands the feminine, the divine feminine understands the masculine, and it's not a battle. It's a relationship. And so these roles have been so distorted, but when we, allow that ego part of ourselves or the dominating male part of ourselves to recognize the feminine within, it's softer, it's more compassionate, it's less about control, and it's more about harmonizing, like I said, and utilizing, the magic that can come forth from allowing that union to take place. Not only that, it improves our relationships. It draws to us, that perfect complement, because we're not attracting what we're lacking to sort of fix that emptiness. We're actually embodying it and sending that frequency out, which brings, a more balanced reflection in our outer life, in our relationships. And so, it's just very important that, we recognize both. And whatever gender that we have, is a more genuine expression, because, same thing with right and left brain. We need logic, but we also need intuition. We need discernment in these times. And so the feminine role is extremely important because it gives us that connection to the intuition.
Yes.
And because it's within men, it's not just saying this is a feminine thing, but everything has a negative and positive charge. Everything has a feminine and masculine vibration in nature, but it's how the two come together to birth life. And it's also about understanding the light and dark and not branding one or the other. It goes for all things. We need to understand that the darkness is like the soil. It's the creative fertility. It's the darkness that births. It's not darkness that we should fear, but they've taught us to fear darkness, and they've, sort of stepped into that arena so that we don't journey into that mystery. We, in a sense, give our power away because we're afraid of ourselves, and that's what they want. When we can own our power and step into it, there's nobody else that can step in there for us, and we're actually standing in our sovereignty, and we're, standing in our power, and we can make more informed decisions.
Very, very powerful. I couldn't agree more. Now, can we talk a little bit about the process of releasing from attachment? Because that's really what so many people are trapped in. They are trapped in their ego-identified roles and can't see past that to their true essence. So what do you think some techniques we could employ to help ourselves to release from the attachment to these identified roles that we play in daily life?
Well, it's really just, if we see things in duality, right, wrong, good, bad, even though we know that there is good and bad, but when we can start to have less judgment and more neutrality, we can start to, see what in ourselves is creating this outer reflection. And even though, it's not all going to disappear just because we have found that place in ourselves or that divine center, it sends out a frequency that assists in awakening others and assists them in stepping up into who they are. And so it has a ripple effect. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen if we can all take, self-responsibility. So, ego is very much in duality. It's very much, wanting to defend itself, wanting to, fight and battle. A lot of it's just wanting to be right, wanting to have control. And we need to understand that, the things that we sign up for that are uncomfortable and painful are fine for us, whether it be getting a tattoo, getting exercise, going to the gym, doing things that are very uncomfortable, we're okay doing as long as our conscious mind is signed up for it. What we can't handle are the things that take us by surprise, that cause us discomfort. And we have to be willing to see that these things show up for a reason. We can't be in judgment of the challenges and expect everything to be good all the time. We have to face it head on in order to integrate it. And so, ego, in a sense is veiling higher consciousness. Just like on the planet, the global elite and the patriarch is, suppressing the feminine and higher consciousness of the masculine and feminine together. It's targeted the feminine because that's such an opening to, the birthing and the creativity and the power. But ultimately, it's the union. And ego, likes to suppress it. It doesn't want to listen to the higher self. It wants for itself. It's service to self mentality. Ego is very much me, I. For us to let go of attachment, we have to really ask ourselves, are we motivated by serving the greater good in ourselves and in this world? Or is it just about us and where we're going to get ahead and where we're going to, make a lot of money or, have a conquest, by winning that girl or vice versa, winning that male, and just really, diving deeper, like where we're in our heart, where we're in our wisdom, and we actually see each other as spirits and souls, and we can, appreciate that essence rather than that superficial sort of shell of identity that, really robs us from a beautiful experience and connection where, people are living in integrity. So ego just, I would say ego's service to self, and we're in an egoic world right now. And I call that, archonic rulership, which rules the lower chakras and kind of keeps us from being in the heart. That is the portal to, our higher self, which anchors heaven on earth. And so when we discover that in our own beings, we become that force in the world that emits that information. So, yeah, I mean, ego, you can't get rid of it, but instead of it running the show, it could definitely be informed and learn from the higher self and take its guidance, because that way the willfulness of ego can become divine will. It can start to listen to the higher self and act in service to it rather than suppressing it.
Absolutely. And this is something that I've often talked about on my show, how, it isn't about the total annihilation of ego. It is about bringing the ego, reining it in and bringing it back into service with the higher self and the will of creation. So I absolutely love your take on that. Can we speak to the role of courage in this? Because looking within and being honest with oneself, truly being honest with oneself, taking personal responsibility, all of these things require immense courage. So courage has been traditionally seen as masculine, but really, is it not the full expression of the sacred feminine energy, of the divine feminine itself?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of courage to dig deep into a place where we're not encouraged to go. And it's, important that people understand that ego is not just the arrogance or the me. It's also the broken person that doesn't feel good enough or worthy. And it's that duality of, it's either arrogance or insecurity rather than confidence and humility, which is, a more honest polarity, because they, work together where you're humble and then you're confident in what you're able to receive and what you're able to surrender to, rather than everything being about the successes and failures. So, courage on a feminine level is the willingness to let go of, all these different things that define, what it means to be a woman in this society. People are so obsessed with appearances. People are so obsessed with, playing a certain role to appease in a seductive way, rather than sharing the essence of the mother of the divine nature of this planet, the elements of earth, air, fire, water, and that alchemy of bringing in spirit that's able to turn everything around. And it takes a lot of courage because at first it might not draw a lot of attention, and it might mean that a person's a little bit isolated if they're not around people who understand it. But it's the willingness to say, who cares, as long as you're true to you, as long as you're being honest with yourself and you're willing to just resurrect these hidden parts that do not like to be suppressed, then not only are you, being courageous in your own self, you're stepping up to the world and saying, I'm not going to buy into this programming anymore. We have to understand that our energies are being used against us. Every time we, slip out of integrity or we're focused on ego and superficiality, we're creating exactly what we don't want. When we go deeper, they can't reach that place. The dark side, whatever you want to call it, these agendas can't really reach that essence because they don't understand it. They require us to be split and separate and in duality and in superficial, wants and desires, in order for them to take our money and take our attention and take our time, to support our enslavement. I mean, we almost hand our free will over, and this is the game. They can't take our free will, but they can certainly manipulate us and deceive us so that we gladly hand it over because we don't question ourselves. So I think the courage is in taking a deep look at who we are, going into uncomfortable territory, purging the programs, purging, all the different stuff that distorts us, and facing our wounds and giving them the love and light of our own wisdom, body, and nature, and recognizing that the Great Mother, will take care of us and provide for us, and we don't need this money system. It's courageous because, it's basically saying, I don't need this system. I know and trust in something far greater, and it'll take care of me. And I don't just say this lightly like some kind of philosophy. My whole life has been about proving it to myself by living that kind of lifestyle where, I let go of so many attachments to just sort of be upfront with myself and spirit and say, okay, now what? Am I a victim, or am I going to be taken care of because I'm in alignment? And there were times where I would fall into fear or, survival, and nothing worked out. The attackers and the energies that were after me, increased. But the more I stepped into my power, the more I just faced myself and resurrected those parts of me that were missing, that they were preying upon, and brought it to the surface. Miracles happened. And those forces just started to almost run away, like they were more scared of me. So it just takes a lot of courage, but, the beauty is it's the most natural thing. If we could stop worrying about what other people think, or thinking that we need to appease, a certain program in order to fit in or to be accepted by the opposite sex, then we can, fall back on ourselves, and we can have that self-reliance that makes us less dependent on the system and less dependent on others. And that kind of strength is something that'll carry us through. And I think all of us needs to get to that place so that it's not about our significant other, healing us. It's not about, the system, providing us everything that we need and us being victims to when they don't. It's us being able to say, we don't even need it at all, because there's an incredible magic. The cosmos is filled with magic and miracles and abundance. And the yogis understood this. They were able to pull stuff out of the sky. So, my goal is to not only lift the veils between life and death, but help us understand that we can return to a place where we can come and go from the physical at will. We can, return to, the roots of who we really are without, living in this bubble of these cycles of reincarnation based on the lessons of duality. Because it's time to graduate and get it already, because this is the time where we need to, look at ourselves and ask ourselves, have we really learned the lessons that we came here to learn? Have we really, taken the time to pay attention to what it's trying to say? Or are we just slipping further and further away into, amnesia? And so, it's radical self-responsibility and self-awareness, and it's a beautiful thing. But yeah, at first it takes a lot of courage, but once you get it going, the rewards and the bliss that fills one's being, gives one the indication that that's absolutely the right track.
Well, that is most absolutely true, and that is really what courage is all about, is getting that momentum going. It's practicing it in our own lives on a day-to-day basis. The dynamic of refusal to cooperate with something that is coercive, with evil itself, this is part of this entire section of solution-oriented approaches that I've been talking about, that I call the non-supportive dominators. Saying no, actually refusal to cooperate with this dark force that is in the world, that desire to control. That's what I've proposed as the ultimate solution to the problems that beset humanity currently. And would you agree that saying no is actually a feminine force, that is passive energy? You're taking a pass. You're not accepting into yourself that which is degrading to the higher self, and you are passing on it. You are deflecting it away. It's a form of an employment of the feminine energy in our lives.
Yeah, that boundary is extremely important because, the feminine energy is always birthing. It absorbs energy a lot. And if it's not in alignment to one's own essence, if it's, some sort of programming or, distortion, that energy will start to, be birthed into our world, and it'll reflect back, and it'll just continue to feed, exactly what we don't want. And so, the feminine force, being able to say no is, the same thing you have to say to a molester or just somebody who's trying to take advantage or manipulate. We have to understand that love isn't, giving yourself away. Love is saying, I love myself enough to have a boundary. I love myself enough to stand in my power and in my truth. And I love myself enough to not let people get away with this, because it becomes tough love, where it's not about judging the attacker. It's about saying, you're not going to do this to me, and giving them that energy back to them so that they can, have it bounce into their court. And, when I was up against the Mars recruiters, saying no is what set me free. And I said no, and I said no, and exposing them, bringing it to the light is what had them leave me alone. And, it was so frightening in a lot of ways, but at the same time, I had no fear. I had no fear because I didn't see them as I didn't find them scary. I saw them as very weak. I saw them as very desperate. And but what was frightening is that, wow, people don't even know this exists. And being up against this and needing to expose it is a little bit daunting. But if anything that comes out of it, it's not that I care that people believe me. It's the power of saying no and having a boundary and choosing what you wish to birth and create in this world, and not letting anything in that is not in agreement with who we are. We are creators. We are not here to listen to authority and have them tell us we need to get off planet. We need to do this. We need to do that. Mother Earth is not here to eject us and abandon us or kick us off planet. There's agendas that are trying to do that, and they're blaming Mother Earth and these catastrophes that they're saying she's creating, when in actual fact, they're creating them. They've created this whole theater. And when people are really in touch with their feminine energy, they can tell the difference between who the mother is and what her intention is compared to what these controllers are trying to say, which is, oh, yeah, that was an earthquake, or that was a tsunami, or, those chemtrails are nothing. And, it's like everything is so disguised that we would think it's all natural, but it mimics the organic creation and gives it back to us in a distorted version that people think is real. And so, saying no is basically saying that doesn't feel right, that doesn't feel good, and it's the protection. It's the same sort of protection a mother has over her child. It's the way we protect ourselves. And that's the highest form of love, is standing up and, not having it just be kindness or weakness. It's power. Love is power. And, I don't have enemies. I don't consider the Mars recruiters my enemies. I'm just waiting for them to quit it so that I can embrace them. But, but I'm not going to give myself away. I'm not going to allow myself to go down a road that I don't want to go down. I don't care what that means. I don't care if it means I'm dead. I'm not here to be controlled. That's number one. Whatever happens to me outside of that, I would rather deal with than give my power to anybody. And that's saying no, and that's honoring the feminine. That's saying that one is the temple, and only those that you allow in are allowed in. Everybody else that doesn't belong there doesn't belong there. And but there's still universal love, and there's still compassion, and there's still forgiveness. But we certainly don't have to open up the door to anybody, an attacker, a rapist. It's just it's boundaries. It's so important.
Fantastic. Absolutely. I call no the most powerful word in the universe. Saying no to the dark forces that are at work in our lives and in this world is really all about saying yes to ourselves, our true selves, our higher selves. It's about saying yes to the truth. And that's, again, for me, that's the highest embodiment and expression of the sacred feminine that we could possibly aspire to. So let's shift roles just a little, shift gears just a little bit. Maybe we could talk about what alchemy is. What is your view of alchemy? What is it? How is it practiced? Tell the listeners about your take on what alchemy is all about.
Well, there's a lot of different forms of alchemy, as we know. There's the quest for the philosopher's stone, I guess you can say, and some might create Ormus or different versions of it. But I like to go to the real organic version of alchemy, on a soul level, soul alchemy, where we're turning lead into gold, where we're turning the old paradigm into the new by taking responsibility with the light and dark within ourselves, the shadow self, looking at it, casting a light on it and seeing, where it needs, connection to one's higher self. It's bringing those forces together. On the larger world stage, there's an example with the pentagram upside down, how that's, the force of matter, the force of the physical, in control and in charge with the higher self suppressed. Right. The alchemy of really awakening and taking one's power back is turning that star upright again and allowing the rays of spirit to come in so that spirit is the dominant force. Yes. Spirit is shaping matter rather than the other way around. They want us to be locked underneath, the physical, where we're in survival, we're in poverty, we're desperate, we're, needing dependency on the system and each other, locked in that system, rather than, global family and unity consciousness. And, one's so empowered in their spirit nature that we're able to shift things like a dreamer, like a lucid dreamer that's just able to raise oneself into a higher existence and higher frequency, which reflects, that dimensional shift. And so, we see it on the world stage, as the cosmos and these Venus transits draw a pentagram in the sky. The cosmos in itself is alchemical in what it's giving us. The zodiac, for example, there's a dark light of the zodiac. The dark light of the zodiac is the negative polarity of these planets. For example, Neptune, the negative polarity of Neptune would be escapism, addiction, the lost soul. But the positive polarity would be the mysticism, spirituality, multidimensional awareness. And so, here we are in the lessons of duality, on the spinning wheel of necessity during this, these cycles of incarnations to really learn, the light and dark, the light polarity and the dark polarity. Our job is to be able to see both and bring them together and understand that no matter how dark and difficult it is, there's another side to the coin. There's incredible power on the other side and all the gifts that energy represents if we can just harness it and understand it. And so, the alchemy is, recognizing that in the depths of darkness, in the depths of despair, addiction, misery, just being lost and just really out of it, that one can actually dig deeper and discover that there's incredible transformation. There's incredible, forces that are waiting on the other side for us to get in touch with it. And when we do, everything turns around because nothing's linear. Everything's in cycles. We go down into the depths, but if we don't bring ourselves back up again, we're kind of in stuck, cycle. But when we, carry it all the way through, we're actually, like nature does, death, regeneration, birth, death, rebirth, just that whole cycle. And, just like when a flower, dies, it composts the soil and the next growth is even stronger. And so as a humanity going through the cycles of this wheel of necessity, this zodiac, we're given the chance to regenerate and come back stronger each time, utilizing our lessons, utilizing the wisdom that lies in the seed, rather than identifying with the weeds that want to strangle it because we're not taking care of who we are and we're not standing in the wisdom of our unfolding. So to me, we don't need to attain enlightenment. We need to maintain it. We're already enlightened beings. But the thing is, if we don't tend to the garden, if we don't pull the weeds, if we don't give it sunlight and water, if we don't take care of the plant, we're going to be trampled. We're going to be, covered by all sorts of things, and we're going to lose sense of who we really are. So, to me, alchemy is just that focal point of knowing that nothing on a dark level, no radiation, no chemtrail, nothing out there that's dark is a fixed destination. We have the ability to turn it all the way back around. And I've done a lot of probing into this. For example, the nuclear reactors have plutonium, uranium, and neptunium as their main ingredients. Now, when we think about those 3 planets, those are outer planets. Those are planets that we all deal with. Now, the stuck version would be that we're all poisoned and we're just suppressed by all these technologies and poisons. But the next step is to understand the makeup of these things and seeing the other side. The other side to Uranus is a breakthrough. It's truth. But the negative polarity is breakdown and being, kind of pushed under. The negative polarity of Pluto is death, destruction. But the positive polarity is transformation and rebirth. And like I said with Neptune, escapism, lost soul, and the positive polarity is multidimensional awareness and spirituality. So when we can harness the light side of it all and bring it full circle, we're actually creating global alchemy. But we have to understand soul alchemy first to be able to incorporate it into the larger picture. But the two are very much, going on, just like the Mars agenda. Breaking down the Mars agenda is just like breaking down the ego. We see it on the world stage, a secret Mars agenda, just like the secret lives we've been living where we're attached to the ego. We break through that, we expose it, we bust it for what it is, and all of a sudden something opens up and we take it full circle and we're resonating with our higher self. That's all alchemy. It's the ability to know that there's no stuck destination. Everything is cyclical. And when we get that motor running, we actually are supercharged and our creative energy is powerful. And we utilize the light and dark, the masculine and feminine, the good, the evil, the right and left, spirituality and science. And we actually turn it into something rather than fix ourselves with a belief or something that keeps us stuck in the middle where we can't, spin our wheels. We're just like stuck in the mud.
I think that's right on point. That's just a really great view of what alchemy really is and what it's intended to do. It is all about transmutation. It's taking one form of energy that doesn't serve us and changing it, working with that energy, working with what is given to us, and then changing it into something that we can actually use and employ for our higher benefit. And maybe you could speak to the role of physical gender when it comes to this dynamic of transmutation. Transmutation is all about changing oneself first and then becoming a powerful influence to help others to change themselves. So how important, or maybe that might not even be the right way to say it, but could you speak to women's role specifically in a physical gender sense in that overall dynamic of transmutation, especially when it comes to the things that are going on right now in our world?
Well, it's so clear, a person, all they need to do is look in their wallet and pull out a wad of cash, look at a bunch of Illuminati symbols and a bunch of men on a dollar bill. There's not one woman on any bill or any coin. And so it doesn't take a genius to see that we're being dominated by a male force. Women have stepped up and decided to play the male role. For a woman to really stand in her power and to change the game and to create the alchemy that we need to on the planet right now, we need to understand that we don't need to become like men. And men don't need to stay the dominator. We need to resurrect the feminine energy within the feminine, within the masculine, because this is the most compromised force right now. And, same with the divine masculine energy, which has been kicked to the side, for the controller forces. So, on a gender role, it's very important that women, are just embodying, a deep expression of their soul essence, that it's not just about the physicality. It's not just about the sexual aspects. It's about the power of creation. We have the cosmic mother. We have the womb of creation. The galactic core is like the mother womb. And the natural stargates are absolutely connected to the mother. And, so for us to really, as a feminine gender, stand in our power, we have to resurrect something that's really in alignment to Mother Earth and the cosmos and the shift time that we're in. And it goes beyond the ego identity of how we see ourselves. It goes into just, the creation. I mean, we're creating, in a sense, and birthing a new world, but it's already there. But what we're birthing is ourselves out of this shell. I see the ego almost like a shell that needs to be cracked like an egg so the goodies fall out, because it's just so limiting and it's so blocked. And in a sense, it's kind of like the bubble we're in. We're veiled. And so for the feminine energy, to stand in her power is to lift the veils, because it reaches, into all kinds of regions, and it becomes, the force of birthing and just, nurturing And it's an energy that one feels. It's not about what one sees. It's that essence. And so, I just encourage women, not to try and play the role of men, but to just stand in the power of the Creator with a boundary, with that knowing of, just what real beauty is. And this is the thing with Venus and like the Luciferian agenda. It's also associated with Venus, but it's all about the downward plunging into the material. It's about the false light. It's about the false light of material obsession, fame, fortune, and willfulness on a Venus, pleasure level. The higher octave of Venus, though, which is the divine feminine, which is turning the star upright again, is all about, true beauty, love, wisdom, nurturing, the maiden, the mother, and the crone. A woman who's able to be in her elder years and just who loves herself just as much as when she was the maiden. And it's being able to embody, the triple goddess, all aspects of the feminine, Kali, the underworld aspects, even the rage, not being afraid of any part of who you are, but allowing them all to work together, all these different aspects, and owning them rather than limiting oneself because of what men want us to be or what society wants us to be, but breaking free of all that and just accepting even the aging process, And I know we're lifting the veils from, life and death, and we're going to get ourselves back to just the ability to regenerate. But until then, these cycles that we're in are a beautiful thing because it's all about, understanding nature. And the most beautiful way to connect with the feminine is by connecting with nature, to understand, that purity and innocence again. And men need to do this too, of course. And so it's just shattering the programs, the things that we were raised on, the things that we see, and, everybody. Women struggle so much with insecurities as they try and break free of these programs, or they get stuck in the role, or men get so stuck that, they only appreciate, this type or that type. And it's really time to just shed all that and look at the energy, look at the essence, and just celebrate the beautiful qualities that we have without all this other stuff. That to me is really stepping into the feminine power.
Absolutely. And, the reason I asked the question regarding physical gender role is because when we really look at the domination, the forces of domination at work in our lives, I think we should just be honest with ourselves and say that, it's men who are really bringing in this dark new world order. It's people who are involved in the military and the police. And this is largely physical gender males. Okay, so I was asking that in order to get your take on kind of how can women gently begin to persuade and influence men that this is not the right path to go down, to be a dominator, to be someone who engages in coercion, in the usurpation of our inherent natural rights. What do you think women can do to try to bridge that divide? Because there's a big divide there, and in bringing these males who are part of this domination system over and helping them to experience sacred feminine energy, true care, so that they can realize that what they're a part of, the agenda that they're a part of, often unwittingly, is absolutely wrong and needs to be, stepped back from. They need to step back from that, take another look, reevaluate it, and recognize it for what it is, which is evil, which is pure coercion, and its wrongness. It's the full expression of everything that's wrong. How do you think women who are connected with these men in their lives, because these men will all have mothers, they will all have sisters and wives and girlfriends, and there's women all around them in their family, in their relationships, their personal relationships. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe what you think that women in these men's lives can do to help transmute these energies that these men have been working with that are poisonous and destructive, and help to eventually transmute them over to something that is more in line with truth and with the feminine energy?
That's such a brilliant question. I love it. And that's not an easy one to answer, but, immediately the first thing that came to me was, reaching that being for who they truly are, not talking to their corruption, not relating to them based on the evil that they're doing or that they're not aware of doing. Don't empower that, reach to their spirit, talk to their inner child, talk to, the place that exists with them, and empower that, when you speak to them, rather than, getting angry or fighting back or, just, I mean, what I do and what I've done, with law enforcement, with Mars recruiters, with, very, very controlling men that have been in my life. Oh my God. I just try and locate their spirit nature, their inner child, that little boy who's lost, who might not have gotten their needs met, maybe not in many lifetimes, because, mothers, have a hard time knowing what it means to be a mother. I mean, a lot of that is returning. People are really, restoring all of that. But, men might not have been nurtured by their mother. They might fear the feminine power because they don't want to be vulnerable. They're taught to be in their ego. So you have to make it safe for them. You have a person just has to make them feel safe to be vulnerable, safe to be in touch with that inner child, so that they are actually looking for the mother, so that they can remember they actually miss the mother, they love the mother, because if we keep relating to them as the bad male, the controller, the oppressor, the dominator, then, we're still at battle, we're still at war. So my approach is to kind of, not look at all that and just kind of let that all just be sort of this false shell that they're carrying, and go right for the heart and just talk to that part of them. And I swear to God, in my life, it has made all the difference in the world, because they feel safe. They feel like, wow, they actually feel a sense of emotion. They feel a sense of compassion. And, and it's not about, seducing them so you get their way and get off a ticket. It's about, talking to them, from the essence of, even if you don't have kids, but we all have the mother in us, and just relating to them like the mother, not treating them like a child, but talking to them like, there's somebody that just doesn't know, that needs guidance, that needs to just remember, rather than empowering everything that you hate about them, because that's not going to help. So it's just radical, unconditional love. Like the Mars recruiters, I thank them, and I just, I say, I give them love, and they just, they expect me to be angry. And, I even joke around with them. And I once said to them, I said, well, you can kill me, but, I'll reincarnate even more pissed off. But, I'm not pissed off at anything except for the fact that we all need to work together. And, I've actually gotten that far in a few conversations. And, there's a lot have just put down their armor, put down their weapons, put down their BS, and have actually looked at me with respect and said, you know what? Even one of them said, and I swear to God, maybe we should drop everything and just follow you. And from a group of men that have their hands on some heavy duty stuff, or at least are associated with people who do, that was quite shocking. I think I even saved that email because I'm like, oh my gosh. But, the point is, it's like, we are a family, and when we dig real deep and we can see through all these different layers of controls and programs and stuff that they've inherited or that they've been encouraged to be growing up, and we can just look to the heart and soul of that being, you're going to bring it out, and we need to do that with each other in relationships. Just communicate with the part of that being that you want to see, rather than communicate with the parts that you don't like.
Absolutely. I think also playing the influence of and setting an example in one's own life is also a big influence on other people. If we really understand what the solution to the problem is, and how that it is heart-based, it is something that embodies this expression of the divine feminine energy within ourselves. One of the best ways to help people to experience that is to live it in your own life, is to really be a vehicle for true care, be a vehicle for this expression of feminine energy, and that will radiate all around you. People will see that coming forth through you, and that will inspire them to want to take on that energy as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we need to own, who we are, and, nobody can really penetrate that if you're standing strong in that. If you're not playing into the game, the game can't be played. It takes two people. And so, just being the example, just standing in your power, standing in your truth, and, having love in your heart, and just, staying as neutral as possible, and just, compassionate, really just breaks them down. They don't really, because the whole point is, just like a demon, they want our fear. They want our power. But the minute you kind of laugh, or you just, you don't allow it, they don't know how to be scary anymore, because it's not working. You can't engage in something that you don't want to engage in. You simply have to empower what works. And being the example and holding it in yourself is the strongest way to do it, because, I've seen so many, people wearing, that dominator male role energy, and I've seen it break down. I've seen it just fall away. And just even, living in DC or visiting, with some of these people that are just full on patriarchs, just sitting down with them and just having a normal conversation where, they can just see you as a soul rather than, just some silly female or, or something, that they should take advantage of, or me seeing them as just, you're a controlling DC freak. Just getting to the real heart of it can do a whole lot. But I would, we can't do that unless we own it within ourselves. We have to accept all these different parts of us in order to raise its consciousness. I mean, I like to say, allow the master in you to greet the wounded child, to greet, the broken soul. Allow the two to meet because they have something to share with each other. Allow your divinity to face the evils of the world, because they have something to teach each other, but we can't slip our vibration down to a really low level to confront it. We have to confront it from a level that we want them to attain.
Definitely. Let's shift gears again and talk about what some of these archetypal energies are. Can you let us in on what you consider to be the Magdalene energy and what you consider to be the Gaia Sophia energy, and how these different expressions of the sacred feminine, how they differ from each other?
Well, I mean, I see them as very alike. I see all aspects of the feminine as one, and we've all sort of, I guess you could say, been a little bit scattered or shattered, and we sort of identify with archetypes. But, when one sees like the tarot deck or the zodiac, I like to, as a reader and an astrologist and a tarot reader, I like to almost help people get to the 0 point, get to the center of the wheel, get inside the wholeness of it, inside the circle, so that one is embodying all aspects, so that they're the wholeness, not just, because if you're one thing, that means you're not the other. Lee McCloskey put this really well, who created a tarot deck. If you choose just one archetype, then in a way you're saying that you're not all these other things. So, the Magdalene energy to me is that Venus energy, the sacred union, the embodiment of sacred union within, and then that outer Hieros Gamos, the sacred union with another. It's that rebalancing. It's getting, out of the lower creator God energy, the God of the Old Testament, the demiurge, and it's raising that consciousness back to the Christ consciousness, because that, transverses, this lower world. And so the Magdalene energy is very strong in that, and she's had, a lot of different incarnations that represent Hieros Gamos, sacred union, and the path of Venus, which is going into the underworld, facing the gatekeepers and the controllers, and in a sense purifying the mother womb as she does it. We have so many controlling energies and technologies, dark rituals, and abuses that go on underground in these underground bases, which is like, in a way the mother womb has been infiltrated. And so the path of the goddess, the path of the Magdalene energy, the Sophia energy, and the Venus energy is to go into that darkness, like Inanna, the 7 gates of hell, or, Persephone, who gets abducted by Hades. There's a period of going into that darkness, but the beauty is you rise again. You don't allow yourself to be oppressed, and you come back out, and then, just like Demeter and Persephone, the things flower again. It's like the seasons.
Laura, we're coming up to our brief 2-minute break. Right after the break, let's continue with talking about the Magdalene and Sophia energies. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to What on Earth is Happening here on Oracle Broadcasting. My special guest this week, Laura Eisenhower. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to What on Earth is Happening here on the Oracle Broadcasting Radio Network. I'm your host, Mark Passio. My website, whatonearthishappening.com. Today on the show, our special guest is Laura Eisenhower. Laura, in the last section, you were talking about the Magdalene and the Sophia energies. We're going to get back to that in just a moment, but I just want to give the call-in number because we are going to take some calls from listeners in the later part of this second hour of the broadcast today. So if you want to call in with a question for Laura Eisenhower on the sacred feminine energy, let's give the call-in number here. It's 866-841-1065. Once again, the call-in number for the show, 866-841-1065. questions for Laura Eisenhower coming up a little bit later this hour. So Laura, I'll let you get back to your breakdown of some of the different forms of the divine feminine energies, namely the Magdalene and Sophia energies.
Well, they're very connected. I mean, the Magdalene energy is like, the embodiment of the Sophia on earth in a sense. The higher and lower, there's the cosmic Sophia, and then there's the earthly Sophia. And she very much is like a personification of nature and on the Venus path. And so that's all about alchemy. And people understand the Holy Grail. Well, the Grail is the womb of the mother. And so, it's about purifying that. It's about, going through, these cycles to, regenerate life and to, continue with the process of, incarnating with humanity in order to, get us to where we are today. And so this force is within all of us. This is the divine feminine energy. It's the part of us that, is so connected with nature, and it's in our soul. And so we have fire, earth, air, water in our soul energy. And so, the Magdalene energy is, working with those forces on an alchemical level. And so as a personification of Venus, the morning and evening star, it in a sense compensates or redeems the Lucifer energy. We have to understand that all these forces are in us. We can't separate them outside of ourselves. So if there's the first plunging into matter of the Venus energy on a Lucifer level, then the Magdalene Sophia energy is the Venus energy that rises back again. It completes the cycle so that, there's the transformation process to take the lower octave energy of Venus and raise it to the higher level of the Christ Sophia consciousness. And this is very much Gaia. I mean, Gaia is, what is going through this. And so, the feminine energy is absolutely linked, to Gaia. Sophia, in a sense, is morphed into the planetary body and considered also, the cosmic mother. And in that oneness, it's a unified field. So it's not about hierarchy. It's that we're all one in this unified field. That it's the oneness that when we are in the womb of the mother, all her children, and at the same time, it's the embodiment of everything before that even happened. And that's what we're returning to. So she represents, the feminine aspect of God, I guess you could say. But once it's an earth embodiment, it's a little bit different. It means tapping into the universal energy that we're all capable of, and it's being so devoted to that in a sense the physical body becomes a vessel for spirit, the Sophia, and does this in the physical, on a deeper level than the roles that we see men and women play. It's living in connection with nature and the process that nature's in, and she needs us to be in this process with her. This is the co-creation. It's not for Mother Earth to do on her own. It's not for us to do on our own. We're doing this together because we're absolutely linked. Our DNA, so when we think we've been dumbed down to 3-strand DNA, we're in a third dimensional reality, this dumbing down has to do with the loss of the goddess. The minute we awaken to her within, we start to upgrade our DNA, we start to open ourselves up, and we, become in alignment with the galactic core and also to the underworld, which we restore as the mother womb, not just some scary hell place, but the womb, where we birth. And so there's a sun in the core of our planet, there's a sun above us, the solar logos, but then there's the mother energy, and so it's the masculine and feminine working together. And this is the essence of the goddess. And people can turn it into a figure if they want, but they have to understand it's not about that. It's the feminine energy within all of us in the most genuine way is absolutely working with nature to bring about this shift, and they know that. That's why she's been targeted. That's why the Templars have been infiltrated, the Masons. They have all this knowledge. They know all the symbols. They know her to such a high degree that, in a sense, I would say the Nazis and the real, energies and these technologies are using this power and this creative force to fuel their technologies to use against us. And the minute we detach and we call our power back, we're owning that goddess energy, and we're in alignment, and we're on the ascension timeline, we're on the positive timeline. And they want to do everything that they can to steer us into the artificial one where they are playing the role of God in a very destructive, non-godly way.
Absolutely fascinating. I totally agree with you that sacred feminine energy is ultimately a force that is like the force of creation and birth. It's a womb force, as you described it, because that's really what it's attempting to do, is give birth to something that is new, to transform us into something new and give birth to a new form of being. And that's what the process of evolutionary progression in consciousness is all about, is it not?
Oh, say that last part again?
That's what the whole process of the evolution of consciousness is all about. It's a birthing process.
Yes, definitely. And, that's why people, in a sense can say, I feel like I've lived, 5 lifetimes in this one lifetime, because we go through death cycles. The Pluto energy, the Scorpio energy is the big one for that. And we all have that somewhere in our chart. But it's, that dark night of the soul that is such a necessary experience, because it helps us get back in touch with our power that they want us to fear. They want to take that away from us and use it so that we're dependent on them. And, the mystery and the power and the womb is, what we want to return to and what we want to understand. And men are just as capable of birthing, because it's ethereal, it's energetic, it's frequency, it's part of, just our expression. I mean, when we talk, we birth energy. When we, do something for somebody else, we birth new energy. When we, are in union with somebody, we birth energy. When we're in good relationship with ourselves, we birth a new energy. Everything is constantly emitting something from our beings. And so to do the real birthing, to really get in touch with the divine feminine, is to birth a more enlightened world by planting the seeds of higher consciousness into the darkness and fertile creativity of the womb. And when we do that within our own beings, from our higher self into the depths of our own power and our own creative energies, then we are birthing a new expression into our world, and we're bypassing, these different programmings that, want us to just kind of go along with what it's saying. And so many people don't question it. And the thing is, the beauty of the goddess and her powers, you don't need any of that. You don't need to question. You just need to embody. You need to own the nowness. You need to embrace the mystery, because, in the now, we can take all our energy back, and we can navigate forward, with the freedom of our thoughts and our intentions, being the guideposts, not, insurance and having a plan and, knowing who we're going to vote for next and waiting for the president to change, something in our world. We're the agents of change, and we need to look at each other as the leaders. We are, our unified field and our unity consciousness is where our attention needs to be, not on who the next president is. And I'm not saying, don't vote, but don't do it and put all your coins on this person, or, don't expect something from them. Expect something from yourself. Vote for you, because it's time, that we stand in our power, because has it ever worked when we haven't? And, I know for some people, they're like, well, what does that mean? Because they're so foreign to it. But it's, understanding that the potent work is in facing the challenges when they come up, not being in denial, not reaching for the next drug, not running away from it, but looking it head in the face, straight on, and transmuting it and working with it, and not looking at it as a distraction, not looking at it as some burden that, you're off for the day or having a tough time. Look at it as a real chance and opportunity to change the game, because there's so much infiltration, there's so much intrusion with these low frequencies. They want to throw us off. They want us to be in lower emotions. That's why the moon is not even real. It's just to emit, frequencies that just throw us into a lower consciousness. And we need to face it, and we need to say no to it. And, and it's just like, like to anybody you don't want in your life. We have the ability to protect ourselves with our biofield, with just, our own boundary of light, to emit the frequency we want rather than absorb the crap we don't.
Very powerful. Another question. Do you think it is absolutely necessary for people to go into the depths of fear and suffering in order to change? Or can they take an easier path and release that attachment to fear and to the ego before it comes to something like complete breakdown, or even global cataclysmic experiences at a larger scale, at the macro scale?
Absolutely. I mean, that would be more for people that are finding themselves in suffering, to take it full circle, to, awaken the inner master, the part of you that can lift oneself out of that victimhood or fear or suffering. But, if a person is doing pretty good and a lot of stuff isn't coming up for them, neutrality is where it's at. I mean, we don't really have to go into the trenches. If we just allow ourselves to be in neutrality, allow ourselves to get out of the ego, allow ourselves to really understand that a lot of that work has already been done. The thing is, once something happens, it becomes a resource for all. Whatever Einstein has done, whatever Tesla has done, whatever, we've done in past lives, it becomes a universal energy that we can all tap into. We leave behind, like a trail in a sense, or just information and resources, and it's available to us. So, it's better to just recognize that our higher self has a connection to all these higher races, that there's nothing separate from us, that we're connected to all of it. and we're not victims. It's not about what the Anunnaki did. It's not about Lucifer. It's not about the devil. It's understanding that all those forces are within us, and we need to understand how to work with them in our own beings. Because if we fear one or we neglect one, we're not really working with it. And, it doesn't take a lot of suffering to just decide who's in charge. When you allow your higher self to be the driving force of your being, everything else falls into place. When we empower our immune system, any disease or attack that comes is easily solved by the immune system. But, if a person doesn't take good care of themselves or buys into what the doctor's telling them and allows themselves to be controlled by it, then they're caught in that disease and they're stuck in it. We can be stuck in suffering, or we can decide that we're going to hold the frequency that can actually deal with it. So I look at, the planet and just in our own bodies as the same thing. The immune system of ourselves is able to deflect anything. But when we're broken down and we're having a hard time and we don't know who we are, disease comes at us because it's a messenger. It's telling us this is where you need to be stronger. It's not telling us go to a doctor and take a drug and ignore this. Something's coming for a reason. We need to understand that whatever shows up in our life is coming for a reason. We can allow it to break us down and cause us suffering, or we can empower ourselves knowing that we are healers, we are wise, we have the solutions, we have the remedy, we are the antidote. And, but for some it takes a little bit of suffering and going into the trenches and going into the darkness to recognize that again, because we've been pulling out of, some heavy duty stuff. My dark night of the soul felt like it was, much larger than just me. It had to do with, military industrial complex stuff and some of the stuff I took on being a part of this family that I agreed to. But on a personal level for people, it's remembering laughter. It's remembering the fool, just it's a simple shift of perspective, because the thing that fear and suffering does, it's about helplessness, not feeling like you can do anything, that you can't change anything. And if we can own the fact that we have the power to do that, then we don't have to sit in that stuff very long. So I think neutrality, just having trust in oneself and choosing what you devote yourself to and what your intentions are and making them very, very clear, because if you don't make it clear, your creative energy ends up matching whatever mood you're in, because it doesn't know what to do, because you're not telling it, what your intentions are. You're just kind of spinning all over the place. But if you say, my intention is to be devoted and on the ascension timeline, to be devoted to my higher self, to serve the greater good, then I don't think people are going to have that many problems. They'll find that the stuff that comes at them doesn't really have a place to stick. But if nobody really knows what they're doing and they're just kind of lost in it all, it's very easy to absorb the attacks. It's very easy to absorb the toxins or germs or parasites, or to be controlled by a male or be controlled by this global elite. It's recognizing the part of us that doesn't need to submit to it and owning it. But, for some it takes, falling down to get back up. But at this point, I don't think it requires a lot of heavy duty lifting. But for some, having maybe a difficult childhood or coming out of, abuse or neglect or abandonment, yes, it can take that to resurrect oneself. But we have to remember, plug into the primordial parents. We're not just the story of this incarnation with our biological parents and the dramas and situations we've had with our relationships. We have to plug into the fact that we're so much more, and to carry that confidence that it'll see us through. We don't have to get all stuck in just our own stuff. We're so much more than just that. And that's what the programs want. That's why we have dramas and crisis, because we're still buying into the reaction part of us. It's still ego. Whether it feels good about itself or lousy about itself, it's still ego. And it needs to just hand itself over to something much higher, which is just as much a part of us. God is a part of us. We don't need to seek anything outside of ourselves. We need to recognize it within ourselves to fully connect. And then, suffering ceases. I've had many years of suffering, and I could justify, well, this is why and this is that. But, I don't need to go there anymore. I recognize, I signed up for this part of it. But, now it's like a piece of cake. I just needed it to just remind myself of who I am, to stand in my power, and to, to hold that strong and to keep it. And I've never felt so safe, ever since. And it doesn't mean that everything's improved. It's just I'm not in my reaction nature. I'm not in fear of what I'm seeing in the outer world, because I know that it's somewhat an illusion. It's still very real, but my reaction and my perception is an illusion. And it's wanting me to buy into the dark illusion, but I'm buying into, the fact that the illusion is a dream, and I can be an empowered dreamer and actually shift this. And I had a lot of dreams that prepared me for the Mars recruitment and for even this sort of transhumanism agenda. In one of the dreams, these robots were attacking me, and I got away from them, and somebody handed me a whistle and said, just play this whistle. And I played a song, and all of a sudden they all started to blow up. This is before I even really knew a lot about these agendas, but it just reminded me that when we play our own tune, when we're just true to ourselves, when we just sing our song and sing our tune, or become a whistleblower, whatever it meant, we're sending something out that says, I'm not going to take this on, And we have to understand that we are built with the wisdom to protect us and to tell us what we need at any given time. We have to allow ourselves to trust that and not just listen to everything outside of ourselves or what this person has to say. Let it inspire you to look at your own stuff and find your own answers.
Amazing, and very powerful regarding the dream. That's really powerful archetypal imagery that, blowing the whistle dispelled the evil. It's shedding light upon the darkness is really part of what we really need to be doing in order to create positive transformation in the world. That's all part of an overall worldview shift of looking at our personal value in a different light and taking a positive view regarding the possibility for change. Can you speak to that? Yes.
Yeah, I call it the dark teacher. Let it teach you. Don't let it oppress you. Let it remind you of where you're giving yourself away. Don't be a victim to it. Let it guide you into your power. Let it guide you into your truth. Because if something's lacking, if it's causing you suffering and pain, it means that there's something in you that needs to come to the surface. But we're so busy reacting and feeling attacked or feeling run down or feeling like we're going to be enslaved. And that's the belief they want us to have, because they want us to annihilate ourselves. Because as long as we're believing it and owning it, we're going to do it, and they're just providing the stuff. But, when we allow it to help remind us of who we're not, we can utilize it and have it absolutely wake us up instead of put us in more of a trance and more amnesia.
Definitely. Now, let me shift the focus of the conversation just a little bit. If I may, I'd like to ask what you could consider a semi-personal question. You're a family woman. You have 2 young sons. Could you tell us a little bit about how you personally work with your sons in your daily lives to kind of instill values and principles and bring forth a healthy thirst for truth and an understanding of true principles such as non-aggression, self-ownership, and others?
How I pass that on to my children?
Yes.
Oh gosh, my children are just thriving. We've had a lot of difficult years. They went through the Mars thing with me. They've gone through so many broken relationships, and it's, and they know so much about what's going on in the world. They know the darker stuff and the deeper stuff, and it's just about being very honest and just, really allowing them to get in touch with their inner feminine and really seeing me for who I am and not, treating them like they're smaller or lesser or I'm their controller, guiding them into being who they truly are. That's the role of parenting, because if we try and control them, if we treat them the way the global elite are treating us, then, they're going to shut down, their abilities, their gifts, and their powerful just purpose. And so, I let them blossom. I let them be who they are. It's just, I make them feel safe to share anything with me. And I just love them. I just give them a ton of love. And I just help them understand, what I go through and what my path is all about. I help them see the larger picture. I don't hide it from them. I tell them what chemtrails are. I tell them what we're up against, but I allow them to see things like school is just a way to, get in the groove of just being disciplined with, completing a task, but you don't have to buy the information. You don't have to absorb it to be truth. Own your own truth. Maybe you have to play the game a little bit, but, it's just radical honesty, deep, deep love, just appreciation and respect, and recognizing that children are the guides. They are our teachers. But I'm, it's a mutual guiding. They're raising me and I'm raising them. I'm guiding them to stay safe, but they're in a sense guiding me because they're the voice of the new generation. And we need to empower our children. We don't need, to step all over them and tell them how it is. But we certainly need to be honest about what we're confronting and what the world is for real, so that they can remember why they came here, or else they're going to shut down their purposes. Our kids should not be sheltered because they're not going to be able to activate the reason they chose to come to this reality.
Right. Exactly. Very, very good. Okay, how about if we go to a caller? What do you think?
Sure.
Okay. All right, caller, you're live on What on Earth is Happening. Welcome. And do you have a question for Laura Eisenhower? Hello, caller? Caller from...
Mark?
Yes. Jay.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Jay, you're on the
I
air
just
with
wanted-
Laura Eisenhower. I didn't recognize your number.
Yeah, okay.
Sure.
I just wanted to thank Laura for all her hard work.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jay Parker, who spoke at the last Free Your Mind conference and will also be returning for Free Your Mind 2. So continue, Jay.
Hi, Jay.
I just wanted to thank Laura for everything she's doing and keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you so much,
That's all.
Jay.
Jay,
All right,
thanks.
Take care.
You got
Take
it.
care, Jay.
Bye.
Cool.
I'm. It's so great to hear him.
All right, here we go. Another caller. Caller from the 818 area code. You're live on What on Earth is Happening. Our special guest, Laura Eisenhower. Welcome.
Hey, Laura and Mark, thank you so much for bringing this information. Laura, you're just fantastic. It'll be ditto on the last caller. But, you know, I'll tell you, being a truther, I've been a 9/11 truther for 11 years, or almost 11 years, and it's very, very difficult. And it's just like, to me, that's like the explosion, and it's just like there's so many areas of the the rabbit hole that I've been down to, and it's like I'm having difficulties relating to a lot of my family and friends I'm losing because of my insistence, and it's so hard. I was just wondering if you can give me any kind of advice, because sometimes my blood boils, you know, and I know it's not good for me.
I hear you. I had a lot of issues with just how to handle rage, anger, you know, trying to get people to see something. I'm the only person in my family that talks about ETs, UFOs, and treaties that relate to Ike. So I know, you know, how lonely it can be when people aren't understanding. And so I decided one day, you know, it doesn't matter if I convince them. It doesn't matter if my friends get it. I'm just going to focus on the love, because the best thing that we can share, because everything is about frequency. We're in a frequency battle, you know. It's about pushing us into a lower frame of mind. It's about separation. I mean, this is why the wars have happened. This is why the false flags happen, is to cause us division, to cause us fear, to cause us panic, and then to look at them as being the ones who solve it. So when we can see the game and we know that it's actually, you know, our government that's doing it to us, that's a whole nother form of anger. It moves away from terrorism into just recognizing that those are our leaders, you know, that are playing this theater game on us. And that, you know, obviously brings up a whole nother level of anger and the need to inform people. So what I've learned to do is just inform people in neutrality. I know I'm planting seeds. It doesn't matter if they get it right away, but I'm putting it out there, and I'm putting it out there, and I just do it because I know I have to. And regardless of the reaction, whether I'm hated, whether I'm insulted, you know, which I am a lot. The chat rooms aren't very nice sometimes. My YouTube comments are, you know, cruel.
Oh,
and,
yeah, but don't you think they're plants? Don't you think they're like, I mean, this NDAA and all that big $1 billion, where is it, in Utah to spy on all of us? I mean, that stuff is real. The 1.4 billion bullets are real. The chemtrails I point up, and people, oh, it's just airplane fuel.
Yeah, I know.
And then you show someone, and you show the crop circle. It's the same thing you show, and people just don't care. They're in such a deep sleep.
I know it's hard to not, you know, react, because the thing is, we have compassion. We all want to go together. We want our loved ones to be with us on this. We want as many as possible, because, you know, we're battling for souls. They're battling for souls. They want as many people as they can to believe in what they're doing. We want as many people as we can to just join in with us and unite. But we have to just, you know, have neutrality, and to understand that, you know, we're not really winning if we let it get the better of us. You know, we need to hold a high frequency. We need to have compassion. You know, people just don't know how to accept this. It's too much for them. But the thing is, eventually they're going to get it. Eventually it's going to be so damn obvious, which it already is to us. I mean, it's right in our face. But when it really hits home, then they're going to turn around and say, I remember what he said to me. That's the guy who told me, and I ignored him. I shut him down. Now I'm ready to talk to him. You know, it's like people I went to high school with. I was voted most out of I was voted most out of touch with reality for my senior class. I was ostracized a lot in my communities because of the way I was. I was a total loner. I was like really like the freak of the freaks, and I was really alone. And you know, so many have come around. And
Granddaughter level. Oh my God.
Well, I didn't really tell people then, so they just didn't know what I was up against. But
well,
you know,
people didn't know the name Eisenhower. They didn't know your last name.
I didn't. Well, I just, it's a part of my last name, but I used my stepdad's last name because I kind of kept it undercover until I got a grip on my path. You know, until I was really ready. Yeah, I was kind of incognito a little bit with, it was like I was working behind the scenes. I was living a double life, doing all this stuff most of my life, teenage years, and people didn't get it. And I was, facing forces that were so heavy, and it ripped me to shreds. People didn't understand what's wrong with her, And then when I got a grip on it all, and here I am sharing the truth, it's the same thing. Like, what is wrong with her? And, now I'm like, I don't even care. It's like, I came here to do something specific. Nothing's going to get in my way. I'm planting seeds, or I'm, inspiring people to at least be open-minded enough. And I can't be responsible for what they choose to ignore, but I can just wish them the best and just hope to God that they'll come around. But I can't let them get to me anymore, because I can't carry any more anger. I can't carry any more grief. It's like my body's like hit that point where I can't go anywhere but up. It's like I've experienced too much of these other things, and I'm grateful for the process that it's put me in, because it helped me understand how much I care and how important this is. But it's not important enough anymore to tear me to shreds and to bring me down. I'm really focusing on keeping my energy up, keeping my frequency high, and just holding a loving vibration of compassion, for those that, hate me for what I do.
So wonderful.
Oh,
I
thanks.
just appreciate it. I met you in Van Nuys. I got that rock from Valiant Thor, and I'm still looking for it. But I know I had it, and I touched it, and it looked like it was like sugar. The grains were going to come off, and I couldn't get any of those grains off. It was like so weird. But there only one last question, and I really appreciate all the comments. You were right on, and it's touched my soul. But as far as the jump rooms and all the vortexes and the wormholes and whatever, how many of those on Earth elevate to Mars?
Oh, I don't know how many on Earth. I mean, Andrew Bashaga would be the expert in that. But, the thing is with these technologies, they're gray alien technologies, and they're, they're not healthy at all for the planet. We have those abilities, and, I'm all about opening the natural stargates. From the time I was a child, I knew that my job was to keep the natural stargates open, whatever that means. It was just what I was doing. And I went to a clairvoyant institute that validated that I was clearing wormholes, inorganic entities from wormholes. So it's kind of similar to our chakras or energetic bodies and just our own connection to source. We need to clear anything that's standing in the way. And when we do that for ourselves, we assist in doing it for the planet. My route might have been a little bit off, into territory that took a lot longer or encompassed, things that related to the family line that I was in and just the agreements that I came in with. But I mean, ultimately, that's what it's about. It's clearing all this stuff and recognizing that we're here to get in touch with our light body, to transform into the crystalline light body, the Merkaba. And, these technologies, in a sense, rob us from that. It's like, here they are screwing up the planet and poisoning everything, and then they're going to introduce this transhumanism agenda and all these gray alien technologies as being the solution. But it's all these things that have screwed everything up. And I'm not going to buy into just, here's the solution when it's coming from the same people that created the mess. I'm about leaving that part behind and getting in touch with, our own abilities and doing it from the organic nature of just our own awakening, the ascension process coming from within. There's backup plan after backup plan and artificial timelines, catastrophic timelines. If this doesn't work out, there's another one that they've got going, and we got to transverse that within ourselves. Where do we feed it? Where do we walk on it? Where are we, what part of us is still a part of that timeline, and then pull ourselves off, because nothing can destroy the positive timeline, but we can certainly be swayed away from it. And so I'm very wary about, these gray alien technologies and it's important to disclose them and bring it to the light. But my thing is about, getting in touch with how we're going to be able to harness our abilities and recall all of it, because these are all imitator technologies. This is archonic. They imitate us and they turn it into something and then act like we need it. And I'm bypassing all of that.
Laura, I'd like to interject a little bit regarding the timeline that you're speaking about. The 2012 prophecy, the time of prophecy, the prophesied opening up of our internal Stargate as a species, so to speak, and the positive timeline, the transformation in consciousness. Do you feel that transformation, that transmutation and that positive timeline is a certainty, or do you think it can go in another way? And if so, what will it take to achieve this positive timeline from where we're at right now?
Well, I've heard from some, I don't read a lot. I mean, usually mostly it's just coming from my intuition, but if I feel something strong enough, I'll like Google it and see, does anybody else agree? Because I was getting the feeling that, somehow there's not enough coming in, or, I still don't see the changes that I would have liked to see. People, I mean, they still celebrate the Queen's Jubilee. There's still these elections, even conscious
Right.
people are still buying into this. And I'm not seeing, the change that I would like to see in the collective, but I'm seeing it in individuals. And I really do think this is an individual thing. I don't think that we are at the mercy of the collective. Like if they don't wake up, we're all stuck with them. I think that, they're going to be, maybe dealing with this 3D reality, and they're going to stay in this time loop and go through these lessons again or whatever they need. But it really is all about service to self, service to others. Those are really orientated towards higher self, unity consciousness, thinking in terms of the global family and the greater good of all are on that ascension timeline. And those that are, service to self, ego-based, or falling beneath the cracks of it all into despair and addiction and just getting lost, or those that just are kind of in the middle and don't know, it's questionable. But these alignments are going to come back around again. I think 2035 is the next time they come back around. But this cycle of this 2012 window period isn't as open as I would have liked, and it's a little discouraging at times because it's like a labor of love since I was a child, and my whole focus has been on it. And sometimes I'm like, God, I just haven't done enough, or if I just did this, and I'm like, no, don't think like that. I know on an individual basis, it's what frequency we hold, what vibration we hold. And there's rays of high energy coming in constantly and coming from within us. And as they come in, there's something called an accretion, where we take a step up, we boost ourselves, we upgrade, we get to a higher place. And very often, just as humanity is about to take a big step, is when there's a false flag or something in the news. And what it does, it creates sort of this virus, and because, chemtrails have nanoparticles, and it's all about kind of plugging us into the artificial intelligence, as long as we buy into the program, we become susceptible to being plugged into the system in the artificial intelligence matrix. And so as long as we refuse to react, and as long as we, stay centered in our service to others, orientation and connection to our higher self, and aligning with the goddess energy and divine masculine and feminine and sacred union, we are on that positive timeline. But I can't say that I really feel on a collective level that we're all heading there together as was hoped. Right. But I do know, and Ashiana Deanne and Lisa Renee have even validated this, that there is like a power cord that's still connecting, that there are those who are ready to go and nothing's going to like stop them. But, on a collective level, it's not, it has been hijacked. The 5D Ascension timeline in a lot of ways has been hijacked. It's not going to be something that everybody just wakes up to. There are too many controls that people have immersed themselves in, unfortunately. But I'm not going to give up. I mean, I'm all about the positive timeline. I'm not having any fixed beliefs about it. I'm still going to do all that I can. Right. But I just don't see the collective being where I was hoping it would be, I have to admit.
Okay, thank you for your take on that. Let's go to another call. Area code 602. You're live on What on Earth is Happening with our special guest, Laura Eisenhower. Welcome.
Hello, Mark.
Yes.
Yes, hi. This is Ivan from Phoenix.
Hi, Ivan. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Hello to Laura also.
Hi there.
Hi. I've been listening to you guys here the last hour and a half. I'm at work, so if you hear some background noise, that's part of the noise you hear. But I just had a couple of quick comments real quick.
Sure.
You were talking earlier, Laura, about the feminine influencing the masculine. That brought to mind John Perkins' book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, where he refers to the Shwa of the Amazon, where their women tell the men when to stop hunting, when to stop cutting down trees and all that stuff, and how here in America it's like, non-existent, that the women emphasize for the men to keep going, to get more, to keep bringing more money and, all this stuff. And that's part of the disconnection from nature, is that, the feminine has been put aside. I wanted to bring that up if you guys have, touched on that before with John Perkins.
Laura, your comments?
Yeah, I mean, I'm shocked at, how the feminine role in the mainstream is playing out. it's just shocking to see the distortions in the programs on both levels. The beauty of the feminine is the intuition, is the knowing, the excesses and the deficiencies, because women are nurturers. We have the instincts to raise children. It's like we know how to meet the needs of the people. And, the masculine role needs to support that, needs to provide what it can. It helps, impregnate her with new life. I mean, it's a dance, it's a union that needs to work. And it's shocking that, women, want, they want a man with a lot of money. They want this from them. And they're absolutely supporting the continuation of this patriarchal agenda. It's different in every country and every culture, how it's playing out. But the most successful societies were matriarchal. But I'm going as far as to say, I'm in unity consciousness society. That it's union, it's cooperation, it's diversity in harmony. That's oneness. It's not about us all being the same or buying into just the oneness of it all, where we're just the same. It's about being different and being diverse, but having harmony, recognizing the web of life, the mandala that we all are, and allowing women to have their role, just like our shamans. Those that are born to be priestesses, shamans. I mean, they're considered crazy or schizophrenic. Our elders are in nursing homes. They don't remember anything because they have Alzheimer's. I mean, you compare that to Native American culture, it's absolutely different. The elders are the wise ones. They're the ones that, teach. And, look what's happened to our culture. It's when we compare it to those that live close to the earth and that honor the role of women, it's night and day, and it's insane.
Yeah, I agree. I was listening to Joe Rogan a while back, and he did mention something about that, how our societies today here in Westernized societies, how we're lacking any kind of shaman. Basically, anyone that would tell people what you're doing is wrong, hey, you should consider this, and, think about your actions and all this. So, yeah, that's kind of getting around very little, but there are some people who are aware of that. One other thing I wanted to bring up real quick, Mark, in your previous shows, you brought up a lot of things about green language.
Yes.
And there's one phrase that I've never heard you define, which is freedom and wisdom. And everything that I've heard on your shows, even today with Laura, I keep going back to breaking down these two words to their green language, free dominion and wise dominion. Because people just throw those words around like, oh, wisdom, we need to use wisdom, but not without realizing, breaking it down, in the language of the bird,
Yes.
It's basically wise dominion of yourself.
That's
to have,
correct.
Wisdom is to think about your actions, how it affects you and others around you and the environment, but people don't do that. They just think, oh, I'm wise because I'm saving money and I have the good house and I'm healthy, I work out and stuff like that, but that's not true wisdom. It's lacking the connection to the environment and, the causality of all the problems and everything. So, I just wanted to throw that out there as well.
Absolutely. I think that's a really powerful point. And that term, dominion, people think that it has a connotation regarding control. But what it really is referring to is the control that we have to exercise control over ourselves. In other words, to bring our thoughts, emotions, and alignment into harmony, into unison, which that's what unity consciousness is all about. We think, feel, and act, and no aspect of those three modalities of consciousness are in opposition with each other, so that as we think, so we feel, so we act. And that's what that unity that Laura has been speaking about is all about. And that is true dominion, because those are the three things that all of us, each one of us, ultimately has the power to control in our own lives: our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions. That's what we are here to learn how to master. So Laura, your take on that?
Oh, I absolutely agree. And, wisdom is just recognizing how our words, our actions, and our thoughts affect everything, and making, that part of ourself more responsible for, what we put out there and what comes at us, and knows how to work with it in a way that can actually raise it to a higher level, rather than, let it get us all caught up in, this distraction. It's like, we're here to remember that we're masters, and that, our wisdom body has a lot to do with, deep self-awareness, and, not just, knowing how to play the game well, but knowing how to treat each other well and treating ourselves well, and being, a force of creation, knowing that, setting our intentions and having something that is in alignment to our higher self is the wisdom that we need. And that's everything right now. I mean, we're being taught our whole lives to abandon our own wisdom. True wisdom is gaining it back, letting go of attachments and recognizing who are you when you let go of all those attachments. Who is the person that remains? Get in touch with who that person is. And then, once you get a strong foundation of who that person is, empower it to the highest good, and then be out there in the world. And you won't find that your mood is made or broken by people and things and objects, that you're in a level of wisdom. It's like, a homeless person. What a homeless person can be a victim and beg for money, or a homeless person can sit there embodied and have one's needs met, have miracles happen, and it can be provided for. That being can be provided for if it's holding wisdom and holding its light. If we don't hold that perspective, we sink into that victimhood. And we have to remember that we are not what we are attaching ourselves to. We are not the successes on the material level. The true abundance and success that we have is our ability to know who we are without all of that, and be able to still be creative and have our needs met.
Yes, it's all about getting down to the real core of our being. Absolutely, brilliantly said. Let's move on to another caller. Eric, you are live. This is the 619 area code. I believe Eric is the name. You're live on What on Earth is Happening with our special guest, Laura Eisenhower. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, Laura. The depth of your knowledge on various subjects is truly amazing. I've been doing a lot of research and reading myself. I was wondering if you had any recommendations as far as groups or organizations, ancient mystery school type things that you would recommend as being a positive source of information.
I haven't really delved into any of that myself. Positive source of information, I think. Gosh, to me, nature's been my teacher. My background's in wilderness expedition leadership, and so everything I really know, I just learned from, connecting, to Gaia and just, learning how my energy affects the things around me. The kind of animals that come to me, the sort of experiences that I have, and I found that those that were service orientated in the groups that we travel with ended up getting injuries and taken out much quicker. It's like they couldn't last because they weren't thinking of the group, they weren't thinking of the whole. And so I'm not saying go out on a big wilderness expedition, but see, that was my school, was with the wilderness. But I would recommend because so much has been infiltrated out there, I've stayed clear of everything. I'm one of those people that just have a lot of discernment about what I would recommend somebody signing up for. But I guess yeah, I mean, if you want to email me sometime, I can look a little bit further into it. I can't even think of anything that my friends have been a part of that they feel good about. Most people have had to leave things and say, oh, that wasn't for me. The thing is, to me, institutions and other things, they're training wheels. They help get a person thinking and going. But ultimately, I think the best place that we can go is within ourselves, and then find that independence and find that self-reliance, and then attract like-minded people to share that feeling of unity and community. But to isolate oneself too much, or to be underneath somebody else's authority or leadership when it comes to spiritual matters, I'm just very wary of. But I know there's probably some really good stuff out there. I've just relied on myself and nature to guide me, so I'm not the best person to ask, but I'm sure there is good stuff.
So in other words, I believe what Laura is saying here is she learned this from a perspective of gnosis, direct firsthand experience through getting into actual contact with that energy firsthand. So great call. So here we go. Another caller. I believe this is Tim Smith, one of the organizers of the Free Your Mind conference. He helped us organize the first conference and is on board with the organizational team for Free Your Mind too. Tim, welcome to What on Earth is Happening with our special guest, Laura Eisenhower.
Hey, what's up, Mark? And how you doing, Laura?
Hey there.
The main topic here is talking about the divine feminine and the destruction of the divine feminine. I just wanted to mention Disney, and not just Disney, but television in general, but specifically Disney. They're involved in the destruction of the divine feminine because they just portray women as a sexual symbol, and they don't involve. They portray women as specifically as sexual objects, and they're involved in destroying that feminine energy at a very young age. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and just so people are aware of this, and if they have any kids in their life, that they could just be aware of this and to let kids know what Disney is involved in. And that's all I wanted to mention.
Laura, your take on the influence of Hollywood and things like Tim is talking about in influencing the mind toward certain ways of thinking about women in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like the cheese for the mouse. You know, it's drawing people in. It's looking up to celebrity. It's thinking that this is what, you know, one needs to be in order to be liked or to be popular, to be liked by the male. And then once you eat that cheese, you're in the trap. And then once you're in the trap, then you're susceptible to where those agendas go, which is, you know, not the organic ascension timeline. It's not the positive timeline. It's under their control. And, you know, and it's so dangerous. It's so dangerous and it's so devastating. I fortunately, you know, as a kid never bought into it. I don't know how, you know, I think just lots of past lives is just staying strong on this path, but I didn't like it at all. I mean, I can't even say, I just got rid of all the Barbies and like never bought into just, you know, that whole thing. So, you know, I'm not like somebody who broke out of it, but I can certainly say, you know, parents and just, you know, young children, like, you know, look to yourself. I mean, in your own beauty, your own abilities, your own uniqueness, you know, rather than emulating somebody on the screen or wanting to be like this. It's like, look at all the plastic surgery, look at all the, I mean, even, you know, kids get it at a young age, you know, before they're even fully developed. It's horrifying. It's all surface, and that's what's promoted. I mean, our whole culture is promoting something that is so against who we truly are on the deepest of levels. And in relationship and just amongst each other, it's still promoted because people think that's the way it is. That's the true reality. And it's totally dangerous because, you know, that's the way a kid grows up. And if they don't measure up to what those pop stars are, they get bulimic, anorexic, they get surgery, and they just, because it's all about the surface. And the thing is, you know, accept the things you don't like about yourself, because once you get in touch with your inner beauty, you're going to find that it radiates out to every bit of yourself that you don't like. And it's so worth just doing that inner work and finding that depth of love within yourself, because somebody's going to love you for that. And it's going to last a hell of a lot longer than somebody using you just for, you know, whatever facade you are able to play in your teenager, younger adult years. It's not the real essence of our genders. It's not the real essence of a male to think like that either. It's just all been programmed into us. This is what the infiltration has done. It's not, you know, who we naturally are. If we were to rip all that stuff away and we were just to raise our kids without television, we would totally be emerging into our divine masculine and feminine without a problem. That's who we naturally are. When we cut our skin, when we get injured, the immune system responses to do something. You know, nature is wisdom and love, and we're naturally enlightened beings. This infiltration has absolutely thrown us off course, and we got to pull ourselves away from it and get back on, because it's not taking us anywhere we want to go. I'll tell you that, and as you know, so.
Laura, thanks so much for that response. And I'll tell you, I've never seen the phone lines light up like this. You're certainly someone who people want to talk to. We have a lot more callers on the line. I'm not going to be able to get to them all probably within the show. But I have another question for you, if I may. You consider yourself a clairvoyant healer through the application of intuitive gifts. And if I'm not mistaken, you personally practice the divinatory tradition and astrology. Can you give us your view of divination as an intuitive aspect of the goddess tradition, of the sacred feminine tradition, and how you personally employ that gift?
Yeah, you know, I don't like to actually use the word healer. I should probably change it, because I'm just helping. I'm just assisting somebody in healing themselves. I mean, they are absolutely healing themselves. And what I do is I show them their wisdom. I help them see something that they are blocked seeing in themselves. I'm not here to counsel. I'm not here to say this is what it is. I have all the answers. I'm the wise one here. I don't do that at all. I'm absolutely neutral. And I look at the energy and I show them what they're showing me to help them get in touch with who they are, so that they, you know, don't need me or need anybody to remember that. I just get the ball rolling, I guess you could say, and just facilitate their own personal healing. And so the cards for me, you know, we're all made up of these, we're all made up of these archetypes. We're made up of, you know, our zodiac prints, our natal charts, and just the different forces that come in our life based on our agreements, based on our past lives, and, you know, what we still need to understand, our strengths and weaknesses, you know, how we fall on our face and get back up again. And I help people see that. But my goal, like I said, is to get them back in the 0 point energy, to break free of the zodiac, break free of the wheel, break free of the time loop, break free of identifying with just different archetypes, and to embody the wholeness of the masculine and feminine, and then to let, you know, the power of your expression be your uniqueness and the part of your, the flavor you came to express, to be a part of the whole. It's kind of like, each part of our body, holds the DNA of the rest of us, but everything has a different function. Our lungs do something, our liver does something. They're absolutely different, but they still function in the one body, in the one being. Just like us, we each have our roles, but ultimately we're one. And ultimately, that one organ is attached to the rest of it and requires the rest of it to do its job. And so, when I work with people, I just help them to see their own wholeness, their own wisdom, their own higher self, so that they can get themselves out of the foreign energies and the programmings and the traps that they might have slipped into, so that they don't have to continue on this wheel anymore.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so let's take another call. Here we go. Area code 804. You are live on What on Earth is Happening with our special guest, Laura Eisenhower. Welcome.
Hi, is this me?
Yes, it is.
Hi, how are you? Hi, Laura. This is Cindy.
Hi, Cindy.
I really like, it's just about the sacred feminine. Yeah, the Disney and the You Have to, I can't even look at You Have to without vomiting. Just totally hijack the sacred feminine. And because, everybody sees that the feminine is beautiful and nurturing and everything. But what I want to say is something that's equally repulsive to me as You Have to, is seeing the political, the political stuff going on, and it's like a demonic, satanic thing where like a vampire has to be invited in by you. They're doing some sort of occult ritual where, they have us vote. All the elections are fixed anyway. And I remember going to an election place in 2006, and I saw this guy who looked visually normal, but I could see him energetically. He was not human. And he looked at me like, oh, what are you doing here? They are afraid of us because this group, whether they're archonic, reptilian, Draco, demonic, whatever you want to call them, service to self, however you want to, group them, they're done for, and I just, I don't know if it's just the splitting of the way between people who are awake and who aren't. I hope we're just not flattering ourselves. But, I just can't even look at the political stuff going on. I think there's a lot of, although religions probably were set up by Draco, there might be some truth, and that's why we respond to them. But, they say that, they'll go into the mountains and wish that the stones will fall down on them because I think they get destroyed here on Earth. They're being quarantined. And, Alfred Weber talks about how, the quarantine, I was reading it in Barbara Hand Close's book, which she wrote, I think, in 2006, about how 2011 the quarantine comes down. But I don't know if we're being invited back into the galactic community yet because we're still too violent. Do you have any idea what's going on with that?
Well, the fallen systems, the angelic realms, the fallen, there's more than one controller group that's vying for control, but there is, some collaboration too. They have chosen not to ascend, not to redeem themselves, not to right their wrongs, but to use technology as a means to be immortal, to stay on this earth realm, to use earth as their stopping point, and to trap as many souls as possible to serve them. I firmly believe that those that are ready to leave, that are ready to ascend, that have, done what they came here to do, or learn whatever lessons they came to learn, will move on. But, this control system, the black hole technologies, the dark occult technologies, they're very heavy duty. And I know that, in a sense, we're up against that. But, it's the programmings we buy into that makes us susceptible. And, it's a difference between understanding that our life cycle is that we're ascended as immortal beings to lift ourselves out of, this bubble that we're veiled under, and that they might still, run a timeline that's here. But yes, it'll eventually come crashing down on them. But see, they use time travel and teleportation to run their life cycle. Like the Greys, they have the 42,000, the P45s and the P52s, which means 42,000 years in the future, 52,000 years into the future. Right as their race is about to die out, they time travel, they come back, they abduct, they take our genetic information. They're trying to keep their race alive because they can't ascend. They cannot reach their natural immortality or ascension process because they refuse to be anything but service to self. Even though some are trying to help us or some want to, turn themselves around, it's still trying to function in this time loop as immortal beings so they don't have to go through death, so they don't have to face their karma. But at the same time, some have chosen to play the dark role to then work out that karma on, maybe a lower density fourth density planet. And that's what people, from the Illuminati have said, who's to know? But the point is they have their agreements. We have ours. We got to stay firm with what ours are and not get them mixed up with theirs. But yeah, I just see technology as their means to create artificial immortality, and ours, they envy, and that's why they want to keep us trapped, because they can't reach that, and they want to harvest our souls in order to keep their agenda going. And the more of us that can pull away from it, the better. But just one individual pulling away is enough for that one individual to get out of this, I believe.
It's all about ultimately transforming the self, and it doesn't even matter what other people are doing. You have to stand in your truth because you know it's the right thing. So, Laura, we're coming up to the end of the show. We have about a minute and a half left. I want you to tell the listener, and you've been a phenomenal guest. I thank you so much for coming on. I want you to tell the listeners how they can view your work online, give them your website, and then you have the floor till the end of the show.
Oh, thanks so much. My website's Cosmic Gaia. Oh, I'm CosmicGaiaSophia.com. And I'm on Facebook. I've got a few pages up there, Return of the Divine Feminine, and one's under Laura Magdalene Eisenhower. I post constantly because I know that's the quickest way to get information out there. There's a lot of events coming up. 12-12-12 in Phoenix, Arizona, Star Knowledge Conference. I'm going to UFO-Con this weekend to speak in Santa Clarita, California. Or is it Santa Clara? Sorry, Santa Clara, California, and then Asheville, North Carolina, the 23rd to 26th, I believe, for another Star Knowledge. So if anybody's able to make it to those things, that would be excellent. And, you can find my contact information about doing readings on my website under the readings link. And, I try and keep it updated as much as possible, and you can find everything there at CosmicGaiaSophia.com.
Laura, thank you so much for being a part of this show. Ladies and gentlemen, Laura Magdalene